Kyle has pointed out the very infamous quote in fantasy circles where Mike McCarthy said, "I've been where Kellen has been. He wants to light up the scoreboard, but I want to run the damn ball so I can rest my defense." That had everyone on edge. But you think that maybe we were overreacting to that, and it's still the Cowboys. It's still Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. You think we're still going to get our aerial pyrotechnics? It sounds like.
This is why you have me on. I spent 20 minutes one-on-one with Mike McCarthy 3 days ago. Mike said that quote and what he was talking about was after 2020. It got misreported as he just said it for after this season. That is not the case at all. So after 2020, their first year working together, he's like, this is what I want to do. He had no issues with them running the ball last year. He said, look at the last 2 years. Look how much we ran the football. He's like, that quote was just wrong. It was the wrong year. So there you go.
That's really good. I actually did not know that. Yeah, and I think the thing that sort of gets lost in the Mike McCarthy shuffle is that they were, when he was with the Packers, the past heaviest team on first and second downs for his entire tenure of all 32 teams. Like, definitely, like, people can change, but like there was also the talks of him being like somewhat more analytics focused as he joined the Cowboys. So it would be like, it does sort of line up that that's a misrepresentation of who McCarthy is to a degree.
So, Newey, you mentioned
McCarthy got the job. He did whatever he said, whatever he could to keep it. I always believe that Mike McCarthy wanted to call plays, but the Joneses love Kellen Moore. So Mike comes out and says, "Oh yeah, I love Kellen Moore. I'd have hired Kellen Moore wherever I went to." Of course you would have, because you wanted the job.
And Mike McCarthy, he might have had some old quotes recirculating, but I know for a fact he called that playoff loss there with the 49ers a shootout, where I think it was like 19-7 or whatever. He was definitely, I think, in a mood to kind of throw it in reverse after the season, but not surprised to hear that he's walking that back, and he understands he has to throw. And like Kyle said, he's always wanted to throw. But they're still going to run the ball, of course, and Tony Pollard is now the unquestioned lead back. Ezekiel Elliott is still a free agent. Fantasy managers have a lot invested in Tony Pollard, a first-round pick this year. Do you think the Cowboys are ready to make him like a 220-carry player, or would they like to keep his workloads in the same range they were when Zeke was in the backfield? He did get to almost 200 carries last year. What do you think the Cowboys' plans are with Tony Pollard's workload?
Coming off an injury, I think they are going to be very judicious in how they use him. And once again, it's going to be what happens when it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1. What do they do there between, whoever they decide is going to be the number 2 guy, Davis, Dowdle, or Jones? That's still yet to be determined here. Tony's going to get a lot of the volume he had last year, but believe me, it's going to be a tandem. Who that duo is along with him, we'll see, but they're not going to. This will not be Ezekiel Elliott 2016, where they're out here running the ball and this dude is going to lead the league in rushing. Don't look for that. That's not how they're going to run it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it makes sense. Pollard's just not that size, and they didn't that's not what he was coming out of college. Do you think there is a lean on the number 2 in this backfield? And I'm terrified. Can we see Ezekiel Elliott coming back to this team? Because I think that's what all the fantasy nerds are really terrified of, because we love Tony Pollard. We wanted to see him get more work for a long time, and that would be a little concerning. So is there a number 2, and is Zeke still looming?
Ooh, I tell you, man, you guys actually listen to what Jerry Jones says. Jerry Jones once told us, just because I said it doesn't make it so. Jerry's the only one out here talking about, ooh, yeah, we could sign Ezekiel Elliott. No, they're not. They gave the guy's number away. Stephon Gilmore now has 21. Ezekiel Elliott is not coming back here. They are going to go with Tony Pollard, and it's between Ronald Jones, who, oh, by the way, is going to be suspended the first 2 games of the year, and then you've got Rico Dowdle, you've got Malik Davis. That's why these preseason games are so important to see what it is they do there. And, oh, by the way, Deuce Vaughn, who they drafted out of Kansas State, they like him too. Watch him at the screen game during training camp. He's going to be a really interesting player to watch as well.
So, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head where it's just genuinely unsettled behind Tony Pollard. And you mentioned Deuce Vaughn. At Fantasy Managers, he's a popular name, even though he's an undersized guy. No one's really counting on him putting up big fantasy numbers in 2023. They may be his long-term potential. But do you think he'll have any sort of role in 2023? Could he be a package player, or is it going to be hard for him to get on the field?
Patrick, this is why I can't emphasize it enough. Watching the preseason is going to tell us what happens. And McCarthy talked about it. He's like, you know what? I don't have my 53-man roster set. I'm going to be open-minded because I know when these preseason games happen, somebody's going to make me say, whoa. So let's see what happens. I'll tell you, my personal belief is that Malik Davis, when he's been given the opportunity last year, he has shined. I like him a lot. He was a good player in Florida. His teammate was out there leading the Houston Texans in rushing last year. So I think Davis, that's just kind of my personal belief, I think Davis can be the guy. But these preseason games, starting with Jacksonville on Saturday, that's going to tell us what's really up.
Well, we're taking Davis to the bank now that you said that. So
we're in some deeper drafts. We're in some deeper drafts where you got to go 20 plus rounds. He's getting drafted. I'm telling you, he's getting drafted. And I like to hear it because I've maybe been one of those guys drafting him. Moving to the receivers, last year, Michael Gallup was like the sort of rebound star before we got to the season. Everyone's like, oh, this passing attack looks great. It's concentrated. They have a great quarterback. Michael Gallup, clear too, all wheels up. And it just didn't come together. And I think for a guy coming off the injury he was coming off of, that's reasonable to expect. But Nui, do you think that we can now expect that sort of hype to finally come to fruition? And the fact they brought in Brandon Cooks really muddies that. Do the Cowboys think he can actually return on that hype that was like, he was ascending? I don't want to say he was ascending to stardom, but he was really ascending to be a key contributor to this organization. And last year just did not come together, frankly.
All right, if you're in the Michael Gallup fantasy world, here's what I will tell you. It's a benefit. Cooks is still fast. And if you're a safety, you're going to have to commit to Cooks because if not, he's running by. Oh, by the way, there's CD Lamb there. Michael Gallup should see a lot of one-on-one coverage. At camp, he has looked good. He talked about the mental aspect of coming back last year from the injury. He still wasn't mentally where he needed to be, despite them saying, hey, you're good to go. So Michael Gallup is going to have a good year this season. I'd be going after CD Lamb. If you're in that fantasy realm here, CD Lamb is going to eat. Last year, the first 4 games, he wasn't used to being a number one and everything that came with it. It was an adjustment. He really wasn't good. He got better toward the end of the year. So I'm looking for CD Lamb and what I've seen at camp here to have his best season.